Back again for another unstoppable recap. And family, this one right here, so I one of them will make you just grind your teeth or you're angry. This is one of them will make you just want to grab somebody and choke them. Because in this episode, this lady is talking about how she was sexually molested by two of her cousins. No one was there to protect her. And not only that, she was also molested by other men as well, because she felt at the time as if that was just, once you've been assaulted, is like it giving off some kind of smell pan your face. Yeah, you can come do it too. Now, one of the things in this episode that she said that made it so disturbing was that she said one of her cousin them is like him used to just hold her anywhere him can and take it from her. Now, as a child, to endure that, upsetting. Family, take a listen to this episode that was shared on Unstoppable Life.
So I grew up in Jamaica in the second city. And so I grew up with both my parents, which was they're my adopted parents. So at about 5 years old, I got, sick. So my mother came up with the solution that the best place for me to go was in the country area where my grandmother was. All right. So I moved there, started school there, and then in that house consists of my grandmother, my two cousins, male cousins, along with their sister, my aunt. So, and in those days, in that household, there was what would you call it now? They didn't have light, so we used candle. So I went from in the city where you are modernized, you're more modernized, to in the country where you had to learn to you know adjust yourself. So when the abuse started, I can't give a date, but all I know is that both of them, they're twins, they're twin brothers. And I don't remember if it started with a touch. I don't remember what it started off with. But all I know is that the rape started. Now, it was a case where my grandmother would always be out on the road. My aunt would be at work. She would go to work like in the morning. And in those days, cars, vehicle was hard to get to go home. So you have like, she would come home by maybe 9 o'clock in the night. So she would leave very early in the morning and come home late in the night. My grandmother was the type of person who she knew everybody in the community, so she would go out and she would not come. So I was always left at home with either one of them, one of the boy, or the other one. Sometimes with one of them or and his sister. So what he would have done, um, he would send his sister to the shop. And when this girl went to the shop, she would spend like forever. So he would have gotten enough time to do what he wanted to do to me. And we're not talking about just a touch, we're talking about full blown penetration, which amounts to rape. Now, at this point in time, um, I was in the house with people, but it was as if I was alone. Nobody paid me any attention. Nobody take the time out to see that something was going on, even though, I was exhibiting signs of trauma. I would faint sometimes, I had constant headaches sometimes, and I would be sick. Nobody would notice. Now, at this point in time, when I went to live with my grandmother, I had stopped wetting bed. And when the abuse started, I started now to wet bed again. Now, at this point in time, I used to sleep with my grandmother. And whenever I would wet the bed, she would beat me when I went to bed. So nobody asked any question, nobody saw anything. So so it was a situation like this where I don't know how the twin thing work out, but if it was not one of them today, it was another one tomorrow. So what happened was that there was this one he stands out in my mind more than anyone else. What he would do is anywhere he caught me, that is where I would be raped, even if it's on because back in the days we lived on a hilltop with my grandma in my grandmother's house. There we lived on a hilltop, and so we you could bathe at the back of the yard and nobody would see you. Even there he would rape me. So anywhere he caught me. So I didn't tell anybody because I didn't feel like I could tell anybody. Now, sometimes on certain occasions I would go and spend time with my mother and father in the city. But when they would take me home, back to the house where my grandmother is, I would, no matter how I'm in my deepest of sleep, I would wake up out of my sleep crying. No matter how deep, once I reach, I know. I don't know how I know, but I knew that I reached. And I would be crying from my sleep until I actually wake up. And the problem I had was that nobody asked me what was wrong. All right. So this abuse continued until I moved. My parents they moved up to the country now, so we were not living too far away from my grandmother's house. So I moved to where my mother's house was. And now because I did not say anything, my mother now started asking these boys to come and babysit me, and then it continued. So now the situation got out in the open because my sister came down from she and she's listening right now too. She came down from Kingston because she was living in Kingston with her mom. So she came to spend time with us for the holiday. And so I had a high fever, and she had to give me a bath. So when she started giving me the bath, she called me by my alias, and she said, who are trouble you? And I said to her, nobody not trouble me. Nobody not trouble me. But I was afraid because remember, whenever these people are doing things like these to you, they always make sure that they intimidate you to shut you up so that you always keep their secret. So my sister had to tell me, she said, I won't tell anybody. And she had to really convince me that she wasn't going to tell anybody. So she lied to me and said, I'm not going to tell anybody. And so for 3 consecutive days, she questioned me and she asked me questions and I responded to her. And then when she recognized that she was getting the same answers from me, I remember the night my mother was ironing for my father. She was in the living room. My sister and I, we were in the room. And my sister, I remember I was running after her because she stormed out of the room and she said, Mega tell her, and she called my mother name, Mega tell her. And I felt like my world, like that night, I felt like everything, like if the earth could open and just swallow me, that would have been a better thing. That's how much I felt. So she told my mother. My father was there also. So they got angry, they got agitated. My father jumped in his car, my mother started walking. Because remember, I said they had moved closer to where my grandmother was living. Anyways, it was an uproar the night. My aunt was angry, of course, because it's her son. And so she was like, my father is a liar. So the night she classed my father, and I am a liar. All right. But what stood out to me about that night with the situation when it came out is that both parents made the situation about them. So here I am sitting in the back of the car. And at the time, I don't know if you guys remember Lada. My father was driving a blue Lada. I will never forget it. And I was sitting in the back of that car, and it was just pure chaos. But anyways, we they took to the doctor. Then we went to the police station. All right. The problem that I had with that stands out in my head about the police station scene was instead of them sending a female officer to me, they sent a male officer to me. And here I am sitting down with my little self. My head hung down because I was embarrassed. I was ashamed because of what was done. I'm there. I'm sitting down. The officer is asking me questions, but I could not answer. I was too traumatized. Anyways, maybe because I was not able to give my word, they were not able to take the next step in prosecuting these boys. Anyways, moving on from there, I was taken to, I had to move out of the area. We moved out of the area, me and my mother. My father was still in the area, but me and my mother went to my father's family member's house to stay so that, maybe I could recover, maybe. But nobody spoke about it after that. Everybody was quite quiet about it. Nobody has ever asked me how I'm doing. Nobody has ever apologized. All right. We came back down to from where we went in that different parish. We came back down to Montego Bay. So I had to change school again. By this time I think I was about 7, 8 years old when I came back to Montego Bay. So we moved to an area that was same place where they moved from, and I went to so the place that I left from to go where I needed to recuperate. We moved in the same area but not the same place. All right. So and I'm building up something so that the listeners can understand what I'm so all these things can become, like, I don't want to say a trend, but it's like most times when a person gets raped as a child, it's like it opens a door for other people to do the same thing. That's what I'm getting at. All right, so we now live at this place. So here I was going to school, and my mother was always working late at night as well. This is why she had asked these boys to babysit me before the incident came on. So here we were living in that place, and my mother asked me to go up to the neighbor's house to stay when I came from school. Now, this gentleman, he lived with his girlfriend and his daughter. So I went up there. I was up there. Night came down. My mother never come for me. Before I know it, this man, right beside his daughter, he raped me too. No, I never said anything to anybody because I never know how to tell it. And let me clear up something too. My mother was living a double life. So by then she had taught me how to keep secrets. So it was not only those boys that taught me to keep their secret. I had to keep her secret too. So by this time I learned to keep my mouth shut. So I did not say anything to anybody about this next incident. And so these things broke me. And by this time, I was so broken to the point where I could not function. I could barely function. Now, by this time, still wet in bed, still having nightmares. I'm having panic attack. I started learning to cut myself by this time. So now I learned to cut off people in terms of building a wall around myself. So moving forward to a couple of years um, later, I started. And by the way, let me go back. So let me go back a little bit. So when this incident was happening with my cousins, I remember one morning I was brushing my teeth, and I said to God, "I hate you," because I we used to go to my grandmother used to take me to church, and I said to God, "I hate you." And the reason for me saying this is because you go to church, you learn that God can stop things from happening. And so I blame God for it because I'm saying, you're up there, you're the big one. They say you control the whole world, but yet you can't protect me. But at this time, I did not understand many things. So it went on that as time went by, I was still struggling. Even in my teenage years, I was still struggling. I did poorly in high school. I struggled. And I remember this lady came into my life at the age of 13, and she never liked my attitude, but she said to me, she said, God said, I must be your friend. And we became good friends. And I had her to talk to because nobody else would really listen to me when I talk. Because at this time now, I started talking a little bit. By the time I got into my teenage years, I started talking a little bit. And I noticed that when I started to talk, people would be like, the hush hush culture, don't talk, don't say anything, let it stay. But this lady now started listening to me. And by this time, I was very suicidal. I used to sit down and plan out I had a yellow dress and a yellow polka dot dress. And I used to say to my mother, this is the dress I want you to bury me in, because she did not understand what I was going through. And she never got help for me. And it was never spoken about. And let me explain to you that she was my adopted mother, and she was also an abusive person as well. Because this lady, I don't know, if it was not for God, this lady would have killed me. She would have killed me. So that is one of the other reasons why I couldn't even talk to her either, because she was very abusive. So it happened that this lady, she came into my life, and I was suicidal by then, very suicidal. So moving on, went to church. And what I noticed is that one of the things that helped me when I started going to this church was that, and this was when I started getting older now, because the church that I used to go before, I had left that church because I was old enough now to go to the church that I wanted to. And what I noticed when I went to the church is that some of the things that I was struggling started to leave. So like the nightmares started to go slowly, but the bedwetting was not going anywhere. It took a while for the bedwetting to go. And so I struggled over the years. So eventually I came to the United States in 2019. And by the way, I'm 35 years old now. Came to the United States, and I realized that when I came here to heal, actually. This is why I came to the United States, so that I could heal from all the situations. Because I didn't want to I got tired of walking up and down in the town, not knowing if I'm going to see one of them. It got to me to that extent. And so I started therapy. Now, this therapy that I was in was not only a physical, it was not only a physical therapy. It because this lady is a what would I call it now? A minister. I met her on YouTube, and when I listened to how she spoke, I said, "This lady, I have to get in touch with her." We got in touch. I started my therapy session, and it was not easy. It was not easy to relive these situations, but I had to go back down the road and relive these situations. And so I had got the spiritual part of the deliverance, which I don't want to really go into that part of it. But what I realized is that when your parents plant rejection in you, it's like everywhere you go, people reject you. Everywhere you go, people see it's like there's something that you can't see that people want to hurt you. And my spiritual mother explained that to me, why these things were happening. And so where I am now, I am still on my journey. So my mother and I, the relationship between us, I've not spoken to her in a year.
All right. So the questions a few of the commenters are asking is, we know that you were 5 when this happened to you. How old were your cousins at the time?
They were in their teenage years, but we're talking about 14, 15.
Around 14, 15. Okay, so they were old
Yeah,
enough to know wrong from right.
old enough because I mean an 8-year old know wrong from right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were old enough to know wrong from right.
And the other question that I saw in the comments were the man who you said, your friend's father, who you said raped you, right? Nothing ever came out of
Mhm.
that
No,
because you never told anyone about it.
no.
Now, is it that you didn't tell anyone about it because you felt like nothing would have happened based on what happened with your cousins?
Um, all right. So when you go through these situations, it's like your mind goes into a mode, and this is what I need people to understand. It's like your mind going into a mode where it's like, you know, you don't want to be re-traumatized by going through the court system if there is a court system. That's number one. Number two, you feel the need to protect the perpetrator's family. You want to protect everybody. Meanwhile, you are left out there in the cold. You're hurting. You're traumatized. So that's what I was doing. Never stood up for myself at that time.
When you told your mother about your cousins, right?
I didn't tell my mother about my cousins. My sister did.
Right, but when she found out about it, um,
Mhm.
was there any form of, or was she reacting as if she didn't believe it at any point?
She never reacted as if she did not believe, but with all of what was done between my two parents, it was as if it was all about them. I'm the one that went through it, and they were there back and forth with each other as if it was them that went through it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
You know, some parents would be there for you, they would hug you, they would say, "My daughter, I'm so sorry that this happened to you." Because actually, at one point, when I went back to live with my mother and the incident was happening, I was walking a certain way one day, and my mother looked at me and she said, "What happened to you?" And at the time, because I was so scared, I said to her, "I'm just safe." And that was it. She left it at that. Now, many parents would have said, "All right, let us see where you are safe." She just left it. That's it. That was it. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
That was it. It was done right there.
After she found out about that incident, did she try to keep you away from that aunt and your cousins?
So at the age of 12, she used to send me around there every Saturday to wash my clothes, of course. And then one of the twin, he caught me one day, and just as he was about to full on penetrate me, it's like I don't know what happened because his sister was outside taking a shower, of course. So I don't know what happened, if he was scared, if he heard something. but he stopped immediately. And I remember there was a, we call it asak in Jamaica.
Mm.
It was in the room. He went and sat on there.
So
So he waited
this,
until his sister went to take a shower before he started his attack.
so
And
despite
then I don't know what he heard.
despite knowing that happened to you at 5, she still was sending you there at 12, knowing what happened to
Yeah,
you. And at this point,
definitely.
obviously, they were much older than when you were 5.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't think that she had it in her to love me, and I don't think she will ever have it in her to love me. And that is something I have now come to accept, and I'm fine with that now.
You mentioned that you no longer speak to her, and you haven't spoken to her in how long?
1 year.
Now, before this, where you're not speaking to her, right? Was there ever a point in time where you spoke to her about what happened since you became an adult? Was there ever a point in time where you spoke to her and said, "Mommy, this is how I feel about what happened"? Did you ever have a conversation with her about it?
All right. Here's the reason why I never had a conversation with her. Those people who, as soon as you start saying certain things, you bring up certain things, they get angry, agitated. In
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica, you would say them dark.
Mm-hmm.
Is that type of a person. And then one of my female cousins told me that and she said something similar to me, so I believe my cousin told me that she said that I was busy laying down enjoying myself. And
What?
this is one of the reasons why I said I have to make a choice to cut her off.
Wow. Your
I have to
mother
make a choice to
say
cut
your
her
mother
off.
say you did there busy laying down enjoying yourself.
Busy, then laying down enjoying myself.
As a
That is what she said
wow.
as a child. As a
Mm.
child.
Mm.
So she was not the type of mother, like she wasn't that good of a mother. I'm not telling you that she has never done anything good for me. I will never do that. And please, I do not want anybody bashing her or anything like that. I'm just saying these things because I want people to understand that these things really do happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the signs that people should look out for with their children. Because I'm telling you right now, somebody's child is going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's child is going through the same thing. So she wasn't that good of a mother. My father was always busy going to work and all these things. He worked at night, sleep in the daytime. He was most time working too. But then she come home in the night. So she wasn't that of a good mother. She was the type of mother that uplift the child and all these things. Everything was always speaking negative things over me. Speaking negative things over me. It was always bashing. The only thing she had time for is when she wanted to whoop my behind.
After school, after you completed school, what was your life like? Did this thing affect you, as an
All right.
adult?
All right. So relationship wise, intimacy was a disaster. Intimacy was a major disaster. And I could not keep a relationship. Honestly, I could not. My relationship with people was very poor because by now you build up a wall around yourself. You're protecting yourself from everybody, man, woman, boy, and girl. You're protecting yourself from everybody. And then one of the things that I should mention is that one of them looked at me when I was now an adult. He looked at me and he was like, "Do you remember what we used to do?" And I felt like if the earth could just open and swallow me.
But all him bully.
The, the word that he said out of his mouth might as well he had slapped me in my face. That would have been better. That would have been better than what he actually said to me. And I said, "What we used to do?" And that was the end of the argument with him. So these people too, people need to understand, they will never feel like they did anything wrong. They won't feel like they did anything wrong. In their minds, oh, we were in it together. And so most of the time, nobody spoke about it. It was a hush hush. You know, the society that we live in is a hush hush. Nobody really want to talk about it. Or if you do try to say something, people will say to you, you know what, get over it. It's past and gone. Meanwhile, you're sinking in a ditch. I was sinking in a ditch. I started drinking. I started smoking. This minute I'm in church, the next minute I'm gone out of church. I was very unstable in my up to the time before I came here. Very unstable. Very unstable. So my life was not the best of life because now I had this to live with. There was not a day that went by that I did not remember what these boys did. Never a day. And other people too who were involved that I never mentioned, their names.
Now, I can certainly understand why she felt the way how she felt about her mother, Because you hear the part where she said her mother made a comment about her just lying down and not enjoy herself. How can a mother say something about her daughter that was molested? How could she say something like that? She did lay down and enjoy herself. I could understand why she feels the way she feels about her mother. Viewers, talk to me in the comment section. Let me hear what is your take on this one. Would I love to get no feedback, and I will definitely respond. If you want to listen to the rest of this episode, click the link in the description. It will take you on over to Unstoppable Live, where you can listen to everything that was shared. When you go over there, remember to hit that subscribe button. Turn on all notifications. And also, if you're watching on Facebook, hit the follow button over there. That would be appreciated. Until the next Unstoppable recap, stay strong, stay motivated, but most of all, remain unstoppable. Unstoppable.